Do not learn from a list. I'm telling you, do not learn from a vocabulary list. Now, one of the most common problems when it comes to learning English or in other foreign languages is that when you put so much effort, so much time in memorizing words, you're pretty confident that you know what it means, but when the time comes when you actually have to use this word in real life, nothing comes out. It's a similar frustration when you spend so much time, so many hours studying for an exam, and you're so confident that you're going to ace this exam, but once you're in the exam room writing down all your answers, nothing comes out. So it's that same frustrating feeling when you cannot remember a word that you have learned so many times. So what is one mistake that I see a lot of my students do when they're memorizing vocabulary? It's to learn from a word list. Like one of those books or even articles that say 500 most common verbs or 2000 most common words in English or in Spanish and all of that. So that's not the best way, that's not the best resource to learn a language from. It seems to be very straightforward to learn words that way, but it's actually counterproductive because this is what makes it difficult for you to recall them. Because in order for you to recall a vocabulary automatically, you need to have a lot of association and context. And the worst of its kind is when I see a list of most common words and then right next to it would just be a 1 or 2 word definition in the native language. For instance, like cold means dingin or hot means panas in Indonesian. These lists, they're not your friend, so throw it away. So what is a better solution to this? You're probably going to be quite sick of hearing this from me, but is to maximize input. The only way to expand your vocabulary is to, of course, maximize input using different mediums. So podcast, books, music, TV series, TV shows, news articles, etc. And it's very important to expose yourself to these different mediums because each medium shows you a different language register. News article might show you a bit more of a formal vocabulary, more sophisticated words. Same like books, like books are usually, like the sentence in books are usually structured a lot more poetically, a lot more beautifully. Whereas conversations in podcasts, of course, depending on the host, it's probably the most representative of real life English. Movies and TV series as well, but remember that movies and TV series are scripted, so there are many times where I watch a movie in English and I thought to myself, no one ever talks like that in real life, so it's good to, of course, it's an amazing way to get exposed to different vocabulary, but keep that in mind. So the best way to expand your vocabulary is to maximize input in all of these different mediums.
Hey guys, before we return to the video, I just want to tell you that ESA is now open for application. So if you are a professional or an expat who need to urgently speak English in your life, make sure that you check this out because it's going to be super interesting. So go on the website, click apply now, and we will get in touch with you if you guys are a fit into this program. So back to the video and enjoy.
So why is it a bad idea to learn from these kinds of lists? Well, first, learning from this kind of list is ineffective because it lacks the context. It might have been helpful for you as a beginner to try to familiarize yourself with the 500 most common words, but when it comes to the intermediate level, which you are in, this is a video for intermediate learners, you need to focus more on practical usage and context. You need to be able to apply these words in conversations, in real conversations correctly. And just seeing single words, like words in isolation without knowing when, how, or what it is used for, it's not going to help you very much, So language is dynamic, and usually a single word has multiple meanings and different nuances that are better understood in context. So it's better to learn these words when it's actually used in real life. And how? from all of those mediums that I mentioned before. And also learning from like these individual words, what you're doing is just not really associating, you know, like these new words to meaning, to your understanding of the word. So what you're doing is just associating this word to the word in your native language. For instance, like cold, dingin, or hot, panas. You know, it's just associating different words in different languages. It's helpful to some extent, but not in the long term. And learning words this way is going to get you stuck in a translation approach, like word by word translation approach or mindset, which is another topic for a different video. But I just want to say that having this kind of list, 500 most common words in English, isn't all that bad. They can be useful as a guide. So for instance, you're wondering, how many words in English do I actually know? And then you go through this list, and if you think that a lot of these words are familiar to you, then that kind of gives you an idea on your current of your current level. You know, you can just use that as a checklist. Oh, I think I know this word, I know that word, I know how to use it. Like if there's like a common word that you haven't come across yet, you're like, hey, I don't know that word. I'm gonna focus on learning and understanding that word for the next couple of days. So having this kind of list is good, but do not use it as your main resource. And if you do have to learn from a list, if that is your preferred way of learning a language, at least make it a phrase list. You know, at least phrases will give you a lot more information about the word, a lot more context as well. And with phrases, you also want to learn when it's used, the situation in which it is used. Even if sometimes you don't really know exactly what the phrase means, at least you know that in a certain type of situation, this is the phrase that I'm going to use. So as an example, let's say my personal example, right now I'm focusing on French. The phrase c'est pas possible, which is like, oh, that's impossible, that's unbelievable. I don't actually have to know the meaning of c'est pas possible. As long as I know the kind of situation in which that word is used, I can just say it. I can just say the phrase in that situation, and I'll be good to go. So with phrases, understand the meaning and when to use them and how to use them. One last thing before I end the video, learning from a list is actually good on one condition. Only if that list is personal to you. So let's say you're exposing yourself to English in real life using these medium. And then of course, you need to keep your phone open or your notebook open to keep track on all of these new words that you're collecting from these sources. So then of course, you're gonna have to make a list of the words that you collected. And this is the only list that is actually good for you to learn from. List that is personal to you. Because you know exactly when this word was used, you know where you got this word, you know how the phrase was used. Maybe you got it from like a TV series, and then you can kind of recall the scene in which this phrase is used, so it's personal to you. And then of course, when you're making a list, you're only writing down the list of words or phrases that you think is relevant to you. You know, like if you are working at a zoo, you're going to write a lot of words or phrases that are relevant to life at the zoo. And then this list of phrases or words that you collected because you work at a zoo may not necessarily be useful to your friend who is an investment banker who's also learning English. You know, so like maybe your investment banker friend would say, I'm never going to use the phrase, please clean the elephant's butt in my life. You know, so my point being is that it's good to learn from a list only if that is a list that you've created yourself and that is personal to you. So that is it for this video. I hope that after this video you're going to throw away your 500 most common vocabulary in English at this stage and start collecting words from different types of sources. So I hope that helps you. Thank you so much for coming, and I'll see you next week in another video. Until then, take care and bye-bye.